friends, and welcome back to Cinematic Sarcastic, the podcast that talks all things movies and television. I'm Natalie, and I'm your host. On today's episode, we are going to talk about Oppenheimer. I know Oppenheimer and Barbie, I think, are the two biggest movies that are out right now. Everyone is abuzz about them. This is probably one of the very few movies that I've seen in the last couple of years that has like a full audience. I think it was mostly sold out, and I wasn't expecting that for Oppenheimer because this obviously is not like a family-friendly movie. So I was anticipating it to be much less full. I definitely saw, Barbie being the sellout one completely just because that one is more family friendly. And I think it is doing really great in the box office, but I've heard really terrible things about it. But we're not reviewing Barbie. We are reviewing Oppenheimer. And I have to say, Oppenheimer, I'll just right out of the gate say, I think that Oppenheimer has significantly raised the bar for me as far as movies of this nature are concerned, like war movies, drama movies, anything centered around real life or real, historical happenings. Oppenheimer has just blown the bar completely out. I really wasn't sure what to expect here. I knew it had a really amazing cast. I love the majority of the people that are in this. I'm a really big fan of like Emily Blunt. I really love Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr. And I was sort of expecting to walk into it and see Oppenheimer played by Cillian Murphy and, Emily Blunt as his wife. And that is not what I got. I am beyond puzzled at how all of these different actors were able to do what they did here. Now, I will say the only thing that took a little adjustment is that Oppenheimer is 3 hours long, and I would say maybe the first half of that, so a good hour and a half, is the lead up story, and it is a slower lead. So it is going to start out pretty slow. And then once things kind of get going and the bomb, is obviously like readily there, I think that the last half of it kind of speeds by. I truly, truly loved the way that they filmed this, in that anything that was happening kind of during a different time. So like the past events were done in color, but a lot of the like future events, the things that were happening in the future, were in black and white. And I found that to be so interesting, the way that they did that, the separation between sort of those times and the significance there of what was happening. But I think that Oppenheimer is the first movie that I have ever watched where I went into it knowing exactly who was going to play, the main characters, and didn't realize that part of the way through the movie that I had kind of stopped seeing them that way. So I sort of stopped seeing Cillian Murphy as Cillian Murphy playing Oppenheimer. He was just Robert Oppenheimer. And Emily Blunt was just Kitty Oppenheimer. Like, they just did such a good job. And the strange thing that I found about this movie is they're all real people. Obviously all of these people are people that were alive, that were real. None of this is really like fake in any way. Now, obviously it is a movie, so it's going to have some drama elements and some things in there that just make it a little bit more, storytelling than like a factual documentary, but I think they did a phenomenal job here. That being said, I don't think I have ever watched a movie ever where every single character was like deeply unlikable, but I was still there for it, like I don't know that I have ever seen a role with Emily Blunt where I like didn't like her. Because she's just such a bubbly and happy personality. And in the majority of her movies, that is what she conveys. Like, that is just her energy. And in terms of Oppenheimer, Kitty Oppenheimer I think must have been a pretty well-known alcoholic. They don't shy away from showing that in the movie. The relationship between Kitty and Robert, to me, doesn't seem like the type of relationship that I would have expected. Now, and I went into this completely unaware of Oppenheimer personally, like what his life story was, what his like history was, or anything of that nature, or like the history of how the atomic bomb was created. I just always knew, Robert Oppenheimer was the person that created the atomic bomb. And I knew kind of the aftermath of that, having seen, the photos after the fact of what happened when we actually detonated them during World War II. But I didn't know anything about him as a person. I did not know that he knew Albert Einstein. I did not know that he, really was like this very renowned scientist, even before having created the atomic bomb. I didn't really know that much about him. And this just was very eye-opening to what like he was like as a person, which I didn't, have a very good grasp on before, and some of the choices that he made, and even him as a person. Like, he had been cheating on his wife with Florence Pugh's character, Jean, which I didn't know. Like, I feel like maybe every husband back in that time frame had to have been, but there were so many names that came into this that I just wasn't aware that they all were together in the same time period. You learn about President Truman, for instance, or you learn about Albert Einstein. And for some reason in my brain, I compartmentalize those people. So I compartmentalize it, and I don't necessarily think that they've ever interacted with each other or knew each other, or, were in the vicinity of one another, when in fact there were so many moving pieces and so many connections together that a lot of them, if they didn't know each other personally, had been in the same rooms together, had, bumped shoulders essentially. And I did not know that Robert Oppenheimer was like actually friends with Albert Einstein, or, on friendly terms with him. So that was pretty cool to kind of see their interactions. But I think maybe Albert Einstein might be the only character in Oppenheimer that wasn't just gloriously unlikable. Like everybody else, I feel like just, they were real people. And I think that is kind of what took me out of, I'm watching a movie, and it felt just sort of like, I'm watching these people, I'm watching these events unfold, and kind of what happened to spur on creating the atomic bomb, and how that happened, and how those events kind of unfolded to get to where we would have been, when I was born and growing up and learning about it. It was, phenomenal. Like one of the best movies, if not the best movie that I have seen, certainly this year, but maybe in the last few. I don't know. It's hard to compare it. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say, this is better than Avatar, or this is better than, whatever other movies have come out, because I feel like Oppenheimer just stands on its own in terms of it's just in its own genre. Like, I would never compare Oppenheimer to Barbie. There's no way I could compare the two at this point. And I haven't seen Barbie yet, but it's just like, there's just no way. There is no way. As much as I like Margot Robbie, there is no way that I will enjoy Barbie near as much as I enjoyed Oppenheimer. And there were a few people in Oppenheimer that I was kind of surprised to see. Like, I didn't really know that they were going to be in the film. I knew, like, for instance, Josh Hartnett was going to be in it, and I don't know that I've seen him in much. I want to say like Lucky Number 11 was maybe the last like major movie that I saw him in. I know he did like a television series after that one, but I haven't seen him in much. So to see him come back for this was really great. Gustav Skarsgård being in this one was fantastic. I enjoy him so much. But I really, really, really was not expecting to see Gary Oldman as Harry Truman, even though I understand it's listed. Like, I'm looking at it right now. I can see that it's listed in the cast that Gary Oldman is in it. But I don't typically look at like the casting of movies or anything like that before going into the movie. I will maybe watch a trailer when it's like first announced, but most of the time, just so that I'm not going into doing my reviews with any kind of bias, like I don't watch even the people that I enjoy who do reviews. I don't watch any of their stuff until after I've seen the movie, just so I'm clear on what my own opinions are and that they're not tainted by anyone else. So I was pretty surprised to see Gary Oldman, and I thought he did so well. Like, it took me a minute to recognize him, you know, because I don't know that I've seen him in anything like recently. And he did such a good job. Everyone did such a good job in this. Like, I'm amazed at just the star power that's going on here. It does not surprise me that Oppenheimer turned out amazing. I mean, this one, I'm glad that I saw this one before I went to see Barbie, because I'm not sure that I would have felt good about having like gone to see Barbie first, you know, and giving that the priority, just with how much I thoroughly enjoyed Oppenheimer. So even though I recognize it's not a family-friendly movie, I would highly recommend seeing it, and definitely see it in theater. It's just like when the bomb goes off, for instance, the test one, they gratefully do not show any of the stuff that actually happens, like that took place in real life with Hiroshima or Nagasaki or anything of that nature. You don't see any, you know, aftermath photos or images, nothing like that. But they do detonate, you know, practice ones. And when those go off in the theater, like the seats shake. And I have to say, like, I was tense through most of those moments when they were doing like the testing and stuff, because it's just like the energy is there in the film. So super loved it. Like 10 out of 10. Definitely recommend. Definitely go see it in theaters if you can. I will absolutely probably watch this again when it comes out on digital. It was wonderful. The entire cast did such an excellent job. They deserve every award that they will no doubt get for this movie. So those are my thoughts on Oppenheimer. I would love to know yours if you have seen this movie. Subscribe if you want to join the movie nerd family, and I hope to see you in the next episode.